Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. We are here again for a very interesting session on a year of elections. As all of you know that this is an year of election and we are going to have elections all over the world that will really reshape the international affairs and geopolitics of South Asia, Southeast Asia, even Europe and America. So, as we have very short time, so I will not waste my time in explaining this session. So, let me introduce myself and my colleagues. My name is Amna Khan, and I'm from Pakistan, and I'm a PhD candidate at Jilin University, China. I'm a freelance researcher and a peace activist. So, here we have two wonderful people with me. So, at my left side, she is Miss Ambika Vishwanath. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Amna. My name is Ambika Vishwanath. I am the co-founder and director of KuberneIn Initiative, which is a research center and think tank in India.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Ambika. And on my right side, we have Honorable Mr. Nazmul Ahsan Kalimullah. Thank you, sir, for your time. Can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you. Well, I'm Professor Dr. Nazmul Hassan Kalimullah. I'm basically an academic and also founder and chair of JANIPOP. It's a national poll monitoring body accredited with the Election Commission of Bangladesh. And we are working for the last 3 decades in home and abroad.
Thank you so much. Okay, so as you know, we have very valuable guest with us. So we will talk about we are going to have elections all over the world, as I have already mentioned. So let's start from the top. Like we are going to have elections in 2024 in US as well. So how do you forecast? My question is from you, Ambika. That how you forecast the forecast or rather predict, what do you think, like how the things gonna change if they do, and what do you see, like what will be the geopolitical implication of the US election in general, specific, and if we be very specific about South Asia?
Okay. With the caveat that I am not election observer or an election commentator, I don't know if I would have a prediction for the US elections for next year, but the way it looks right now, you see former President Trump rising in his voter base, which is to me troubling. You also see that there's not a very viable candidate in the Democratic space as an alternative to current President Biden. He is most likely going to be the front runner for the Democratic space, and probably you'll see an election of Trump versus Biden, right? Sitting in India, from a political perspective, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference because India has a pretty good relationship with the US, which has sustained regardless of whether there's a Democrat or a Republican in the White House. Some things are better when a Republican is there, some things are better when a Democrat is there. But by and large, that trajectory of that relationship is fairly smooth, I would say. I mean, it's sure we have our bumps. However, as a human person of the world, I would say I'm not too thrilled about either of these two candidates, right? Okay. There are, I would say, downsides to both of them. It also depends on whom they both pick as their running mates. If I had to pick, I guess I would prefer another term of President Biden. Trump is an outlier. He is unpredictable. I think some of the relationship with both the US and India, but also the US, it has tried a little bit to repair some of its relationships in this region, in South Asia, but also in Southeast Asia. This is important. There's a huge trust deficit that a lot of countries have right now with America. And I think some people in the Biden administration have tried to fix that. I don't necessarily see any Trump government continuing in that vein. And so I think that would probably be a bit problematic. It would also then depend on, before we have US elections, we have elections all over South Asia, right? Pakistan, Bangladesh, India. It depends on who comes into power in all of these countries. and what kind of relationship they have with whoever comes to the White House in November. So maybe once we have elections, we can see better what we want from that country as well, right?
Yeah, totally agree. So, Sir Nazmul, do you want to add anything into it?
Well, I had the opportunity to observe elections in the United States of America, especially the primary election. It's altogether different ball game. You know, I mean, different candidates from the same party, they sort of compete with each other to prove their worth, and then eventually the party conventions and they formulate and come up with the final nomination. So it will be quite thrilling and interesting to know the process, and at the end of the day, whom we get as the winners.
Yeah, I came to know that you have an experience of observing elections all over the world, in the South Asia, even in the US.
Yeah.
So, if we talk about in the comparative analysis, like how do you compare the two systems? What differences you have seen, like the election system happening in the US, Europe, and then the countries like South Asia?
Well, I had the opportunity to observe elections in the United States of America, United Kingdom, Denmark, in African countries like Mozambique, Zambia, Nigeria, Egypt, in South Asia, for example, in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Republic of Nepal, Republic of Sri Lanka, also, of course, mother country Bangladesh, and also had the opportunity to observe as long-term observers in the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, which used to be known as East Timor, a specially administered region of China named Hong Kong. The first legislative council election I had the opportunity to observe and follow. You know, all these country-specific experiences are different from each other. The electoral system is also unique and different. Varies from country to country. European context is different. So is South Asian one. And here in Nepal and also in Sri Lanka, we have mixed system. Fast past the post alongside list PR system. In Bangladesh, in Pakistan, we have also in India, fast past the post. So all these we have inherited from the Britishers, or Commonwealth tradition, things like that.
So, if we talk about the South Asian region, to be specific, like as she has already mentioned that we are going to have election in the three most important and active player of South Asia, like in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Although there are a lot of speculations are going around about the elections, I will not go into the detail about that. But Ambika, do you see any dramatic change? Do you expect any dramatic change in the region that will reshape the geopolitical environment or the international affairs of the region, or do you see like is it going to be like similar? Are we just continuing the thing?
So that's a hard question to answer for two reasons, though I will try and answer it from an Indian perspective. But I will say it's hard because, one, it's very unclear who is going to be your candidates in Pakistan right now, right? If we had some more clarity on that, then we look at potential candidates in India and we look at potential candidates in Bangladesh, you could possibly make some sort of prediction over there. The second reason I say it's hard to answer that is because there's already a great shift in the relationship over here, not necessarily for the better, unfortunately.
Yes.
And that is not going to change, I think. And that is unlikely to change regardless of what happens in the elections in any of our countries. There's a certain rhetoric of what is important to my country, that nationalism that is coming out more and more. Some may term it self-reliance, some may term it nationalism. I think it's a mix of both. And that is whether you see elections in India, I personally think next year the BJP, the current party, will come back into power next year. But even if you had a complete shift for some reason or the other, right, I don't think that is going to drastically change, right? So I don't think that's the right question in a way to ask. But given that you have asked it, I will say that there is a certain relationship now, for example, that India and Bangladesh have, is growing. It's growing for various reasons, right? There is an economic relationship. There is a move towards better integration of trade, better connectivity. All of these are very beneficial to the countries. They are beneficial to the people of these countries. I don't see power shifts dismantling that, because their benefit to the people is ultimately benefit to you as well,
Yes.
right? And that shows up in your polls, that shows up in your elections, in your voting patterns. What happens in Pakistan and what happens in India, we've seen shifts in government. Regardless, our relationship has gone up and down, and it will continue to go up and down. Right now, it's pretty down. However, what happens in the US, what happens in Europe, what happens in Russia, Russia is also going to have elections.
Yes.
I think some of these might make some small shifts into our patterns of partnerships that we see. But drastically, are we going to see change after 2024, at least in our regional relationships? I don't think so. I don't see it. Yeah.
True.
I don't know. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah. He's an election observer. He knows not to say anything.
I don't want to come up with the last
Absolutely.
word at the moment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we cannot predict because our region is very unpredictable.
It's true. It's true.
We are very predictable in being unpredictable.
Yes, in the morning, I remember speaker has just said that international relation is most predictable when it's unpredictable and vice versa. So it's something like that. So you just mentioned about there is a chance that in fact it's like predicted that maybe most probably BJP is coming to the power again. So what do you think, like Mr. Modi will the vote share will increase, or like how do you see it? And then I will continue the next part as well. And then how do you see the rise of Hindutva doctrine in India? And will it be, or is it a threat to secular India or no?
So on the vote share part, I don't know. I have to follow his lead and say I really don't know, and I don't think anybody can have a correct answer right now. Some of our states are going into election before our election in May, and I think once those are over, probably it will be easier to answer that question.
Okay.
There are very good analysts that are saying that his vote share will remain the same, maybe a slight increase. And there are pretty excellent analysts who do this for a living, who are saying that overall the seat share is likely to decrease. I really do not want to be somebody who says one way or the other without much more knowledge, right? And I think by the end of this year, we might actually have a little bit more information there. On your second question, I think India is much stronger than the kind of shifts we are seeing today. Like we were talking about earlier, there are pockets of unbalance. There is a religious tension. This is not new in India. Religious tension is all over India. It's been all over India since our inception. It's been all over this region since this region freed itself from the British Empire. We are hearing about it more from some parts of India. But is it representative of the entire country? No. And I'll use myself as an example, right? I am mixed ethnicity in India. I'm also in my marriage mixed religion. Okay. I am a woman who works in foreign and security policy. I do a lot of work that can be considered contentious. And the kind of opportunity I've had in the last several years, I might not have had earlier, right? So on the one hand, this government, you can say sure, there are elements of right-wing Hindutva politics that are being played, but that's not all of it. So to look at only one side and term the whole picture as one is, I would say, a little bit misleading. It's lacking also, because my story is also part of that picture. It is to say that one party can completely dismantle the secular nature of this country. I think you're giving too much power to one party. It's there. You cannot do it. It's not that easy, because there's so much else going on in India, that you have just credited somebody with something that's not that. It's difficult.
Okay.
So I don't think so, right? You might see a little bits of it, but that's not all of it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. Yeah, of course, we cannot, there is no black and white in the politics, and there is no black and white in domestic or international affairs.
Yeah.
Every party has their positives and negatives, and we have to deal it with. So just to continue that thing. Sorry.
Oh wait, your background is
আমরা অপেক্ষা করব? হ্যাঁ,
okay. Wait.
না কি আবার শুরু করতে হবে? মাঝখানে যে কথাগুলো বললাম ওগুলো আবার শুরু করতে হবে? মানে যখন তো বাতি চলে গেল? Yeah. When we had power cut, we'll have to start from there. So you'll have to recap.
What?
Oh, so you just start again and say thank you.
Okay,
and,
No. From there, when we had the power cut.
But when was that?
Just a few minutes back.
Yeah. So I finished talking, right?
You finished. Yeah. Just say thank you. And
Okay.
I now even forget the question. I don't know what I was thinking to ask you.
We both wore green.
Oh wow.
Good.
Yesterday my feet hurt so much today, so I wore the socks.
The socks, yeah.
Okay.
Because
Smart.
yesterday it was killing me.
Yeah, on the side, right?
Yes,
It
yes,
hurts.
yes.
Yeah. No, why they
Okay.
don't make these more comfortable?
শুরু করব আমরা?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start.
Thank you for your knowledge about it. So let's coming to Sir Nazmul. Let's talk about a little bit about the Bangladesh elections.
Why not?
So yeah, why not? So what do you think? Do you manifest any change in the government, or you think it's going to go on? And secondly, do you think what do you think what changes will Awami League bring to its electoral manifesto, and will it lose any of some of its alliance parties in the election or not?
Well, Awami League is the dominant party in the country, the oldest one, and they're in power for around 14 years or so, on continuous basis. And the 14-party alliance, which are under the umbrella of Awami League. But I don't think they will be losing their partners. A few more parties might join in. The first question you asked about the future. Of course, a lot of things being conditioned beforehand, and not on the election day. Election day is a ritual, necessary ritual, but the pre-election process matters. And a lot of things are being conditioned beforehand. The election, which was held in 2014 and 2018, they were controversial, and even the Honorable State Minister for Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, his government, he said his party is not also very happy with the outcome and the result, because international community didn't send observers, and we domestic actors also decided to observe a limited scale, not a comprehensive one. 14th one was boycotted, which was 10th parliament election by the mainstream opposition parties. And on 18th, the 11th parliament election, the mainstream opposition, which was in power and formed government for 3 terms, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, they joined the bandwagon at the last moment. They were ill-prepared, and of course, the result was disastrous for them. Out of 300 places, they ended up having only 6 places in the parliament. So for 2 successive elections, it was kind of landslide for the ruling Awami League. And after the 11th parliament election, the Nationalist Party, along with its allies, waging a movement for the restoration of caretaker system in the election scenario. And the government is adamant, the ruling party is adamant not to budge. So the situation is almost like political impasse and almost eyeball to eyeball situation. And PNP and its allies, they're at the final stage of the movement which they're waging. And till now, they are following Gandhian style, non-violent, peaceful demonstrations, dharna, sitting, human chain formation, things like that. But our tradition reminds us that until unless you become revolutionary type violence producing entity, you don't have the edge. So people are wondering what happens at the end. Time is running out. We are expecting the election commission to announce the election schedule in the first week of November, and D-Day is supposed to be in the first week of January.
Okay.
Whatever happens, you'll have to complete the whole process by 29th of January 2024. Otherwise, we'll end up having a constitutional vacuum in the country, as per the pronouncement from the Honorable Election Commission.
As you have just mentioned about the BNP's protest and rallies and dharnas, etc., etc. So what I have learned from the news and media reports, etc., that they were very much successful as well for gathering a lot of people, and
Of course,
there was huge gatherings in terms of
mobilization
mobilization.
effort.
They are very much successful as well.
Of course.
So what do you think? Will they be able to get that much electoral votage in the elections as well, because they have gathered a lot of people?
Well, around, roughly the political divide is 50% of the population are pro-Awami and 50% anti-Awami. And mainstream opposition is BNP, no doubt about that. Although in the parliament we have an opposition party which is represented by Jatiyo Party. And they have 2 factions again. One is pro-government, and is leaning to centrist tendencies. So, a lot of things will be determined by international community as well. Until and unless we can come up with an international guarantee. So, there won't be inclusive participatory election. International community led by United States of America and its allies, EU, Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, around 32 countries together. They expect free, fair, peaceful, independent, participative, inclusive elections. with international standard. Until and unless that can be conducted, election will be treated as a flawed election. So that will generate legitimacy problem, and it will persist. So the political impasse will be simmering. So that is not desirable.
So we just talk about the BNP and their protest and everything. So I have observed that recently a lot of new electoral parties have also registered themselves, and they are they are in the mainframe, and in recent years they are growing. So, but I'm just curious that why these new parties are not getting enough strength. What do you think about it?
Well, people's perception is like this, that these newly registered parties, they were sponsored by the state within state actors, and they are viewed with kind of a suspicion. I mean, and that's why they are not being able to win the heart of the people who belong to the opposition camp.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so actually we are running out of time, so we
If
just
I
need
can
to.
just add
Yeah, sure.
one thing, we have a lot of young new parties in India as well, and it's great. I think it makes for a healthy democracy
Yes,
to have
true.
choice.
Yes.
But when you have parties that have been around for so many decades, it becomes easier also a little bit, for the voter to see the legacy, and then and you, it's sometimes hard to take a chance on something new, right?
Yeah.
And in this, in our region, everything is legacy is very important.
Exactly.
Legacy, whether it's of the name of the land, familiarity, and fighting elections are expensive.
True.
Right, in today's day and age, you're fighting it on the ground, you're fighting it on via technology, you're fighting it through so many means. It's expensive.
You need a lot of money for that.
Yes, and
Not everybody can afford.
Not everybody can afford it, right? So, and it's unfortunate. It's the downside of not
Yes.
having more choice, is because it's not easy. I mean, yeah. So, and that's not just in Bangladesh. It's in India, but it's in so many other countries. It's in the US also.
Buying of the president, quote unquote, a seminal book.
Yeah.
Follow the money.
Correct. It's follow the money. I mean, when are you going to ever have in the US a president who is an independent candidate? Right. Or a green, nobody's funding that.
True.
And, yeah.
I think this is the issue in all the South Asian countries as well, that we have very strong connection with the culture and norms as well, because my grandfather was voting for this party, so I have to do it, and then my father is, because it's coming like that way, like generational votes. So I had a few more questions as well, but I think we are running out of time. Just one quick question from both of you, because we are talking about that the same parties are ruling over and over again, and in Pakistan we have seen Bhuttos and Sharifs had come and forth, and then in the India as well there are two most important, Congress and BJP are running, and then in Bangladesh, Miss Khalda Zia and Sheikh Hasina, they are coming in like this. So alternatively, so what do you think? Do you feel like this dynastic politics, if I would say, if I give this name, so will keep running through in these countries, or will they shape the geopolitical environment or international relations of South Asia? Or do you feel like they are going to that we will see any change?
Is this question to both of us?
Yeah, both of you. Just quick.
I mean, really quickly, I think, yeah, it will continue. I can say for India that maybe at the national level, it is still the two biggest parties or alliance of parties. But you do have a lot of smaller, we have the Aam Aadmi Party now that is made some fairly good inroads into other states as well. And for them to become a big national alliance party, it's probably going to take us still a few more election cycles, but I think that they will get there. But India is very big, right? We have 1.4 billion people, and so we have money and we have room for more parties to grow. It's a little different in a Pakistan and a Bangladesh, which are much smaller countries. So the room to grow is also probably a little bit restricted. Do parties play a role in shaping the region and geopolitics? Probably to a certain extent, not as parties, but as the governments that they form. And that's not only no longer at the national level, even at the state level, you see a lot more subnational diplomacy happening. And, parties at the center and parties at the state might be different, but they are also now spearheading diplomacy at that space, right? So we have more relationships in states in India with countries in Europe, for example, or across borders within the region as well. Not so much across borders, but more outside. So I think there is a way for them to shape the conversation, but by and large, not really. I mean, it's still whoever's at the center, whoever's ever formed the government, they are going to form that discussion.
So what do you think, sir?
Well, it's a South Asian, I think, common trait. It's a dynastic politics and also dominance of two parties, in Bangladesh, it's true because Bangladesh Awami League and Bangladesh Nationalist Party, they are the mainstream parties. The third one is Jatiya Party and the fourth one is Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh. Jamaat has lost its registration, but they have sizable followers still. And these two parties, namely Jatiya Party and Jamaat, acts as the deciding factor. If they tilt to one side, they win, and vice versa.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much, both of you. It was very great discussion, and I think we can talk about it the whole day, maybe 2 days. But unfortunately, we don't have that much time. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and that's all.